In any case, that's great because this week is not my own.
Tim gets gold star, huh?
It's just not. It doesn't belong to me. It belongs to other people.
Is this the right one? It is the right one.
I haven't had a chance to reread it. Stunning. I know. I was preparing for tonight.
No, you don't have to.
I was doing homework. But pretty much, yeah. Pretty much.
What I've been doing the last Yeah, that's what it'll start. It was added Friday.
Okay. You guys ready? Okay. All right, we're going to call to order here. Can I get a motion to go into a public meeting?
I'll make the motion that we go into a public meeting.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
I
All right, okay. First thing we have is the Pledge of Allegiance. So if everyone would rise and pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just take a moment of silence, please. Okay, thank you. Okay. So thanks everyone for coming. There should be seats for those still coming in. And how many do we have online to start with today? Okay. So we've got Elizabeth Dennis, Frankie Bradshaw, George Terrell, Jim Ford, Judy Johnson. We see Marty Thompson on there, Mary Linda Matty, see Rick, Sharon Dardine, and Sumner Crosby. So thank you for joining us online as well. The first order of business is just some announcements. So I'm going to start with, so we have a pretty robust committee schedule this week. So I just want to make everyone aware. So tomorrow, under the esteemed leadership of Councilperson Jones, we're going to be looking at short-term rental through an ad hoc committee, and that meets at 10 a.m. tomorrow here in council chambers and also online. So all are welcome there. On the 15th, so Wednesday is Planning Commission. That's a 6:30 meeting here in council chambers and online. And on Thursday, then, the African American Heritage Commission is going to meet also here in council chambers at 6 o'clock. Again, all these are online. And then finally, rounding out on the 17th, the Annexation Zones Committee Code is meeting at 11 a.m. here in council chambers. Also on Thursday, I've been having, I didn't have it this past week because I was traveling, but on Thursday at 7:30, I've been hosting some coffees. They're going to be hosted at the Net House, which is there in the Canal Front Park. So folks are encouraged to attend that. The following week, I want to draw everyone's attention on the 25th in George H.P. Smith Park. We're going to be having a Juneteenth celebration, and that's going to be from 1 to 6. And that's been organized by our African American Heritage Committee, and they've been cooperating with some of our other committees as well. So that's we look forward to that on the 25th, 1 to 6 at George H.P. Smith Park. And then finally, or actually a couple more in sequence before our next public hearing, or meeting, I should say, is the 29th, Mayor and City Council Workshop, 9 a.m. On the 5th of July, there is a Board of Adjustment meeting at 10 a.m. And then finally, our next meeting will be on the 11th there. Okay. In addition, yeah.
Just add that the Lewes BPW meeting will be on June 29th.
June 29th. Thank you, Henry, for that. Okay. And the other things to raise your awareness to, there's going to be a recognition of Ted Becker on the 17th from 2 to 4. So City Hall will close during that period. And then the June 20th is a national holiday, Juneteenth. So that the City Hall will be closed that day, as well as 4th of July. Okay. Okay. And by the way, the reason we're having our Juneteenth celebration is Georgetown has one actually on Juneteenth. So Lewes is having theirs the following week. Just in terms of other meetings to follow, just to note that the state legislature is back in legislation is back in session. And you can follow that through the DELETIONS site there and follow bills. A couple to be on the lookout for that Dave Ennis had let me know, and he'll report out our bill 220. It's an environmental bill. It's being introduced. So again, they just went back in session. So quite a few bills have been introduced. So I would just sort of track those as you go through. Following up on Sussex County, just this week, I'll just start there, is tomorrow there is a meeting, a county council meeting at 12:30. Their packets online. There's a library advisory board meeting on the 15th. And there is a county council meeting the 21st. And then on the 23rd, there will be a planning and zoning meeting. So agendas aren't posted for those, but for those this week, they are. Okay. Let's see, in addition to that, I think, yeah, we went through all the meetings. Is there any other announcements from the table? No? Okay. So I don't think there are any additions or deletions to the agenda either. So moving right along, I do have a proclamation to read. So this is a proclamation from the Office of the Mayor regarding Juneteenth. So that's coming up this Sunday, June 19th. Whereas Juneteenth is the oldest nationally celebrated commemoration of an ending of slavery in the United States, and whereas Juneteenth also serves as an opportunity for African Americans to cherish their culture and heritage, and whereas more than 155 years old, Juneteenth celebrates the liberation of African Americans from slavery in the U.S. On June 19th, 1865, when General Gordon Granger of the Union Army landed in Texas, he brought the news that the Civil War had ended and all slaves were free. And whereas the Emancipation Proclamation declaring the abolishment of slavery was issued by President Abraham Lincoln on January 1st, 1863, Granger's arrival at Texas was to enforce this decree, which had originally gone into effect 2 years earlier. On June 19th, in the city of Galveston, Granger publicly read General Order Number 3, which stated, "The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with a proclamation from the Executive Office of the United States, all slaves are free. Whereas the city of Lewes encourages all residents to reflect on the importance of freedom of all people. Whereas the City of Lewes, in observance of the significance of June 19th, has recognized this day as an official city holiday. Therefore, I, Mayor Andrew Williams of Lewes, Delaware, on behalf of the City of Lewes Council, do recognize June 19th, 2022 as Juneteenth in the City of Lewes. So, again, that's an important holiday, and I appreciate the efforts of our own African American Heritage Committee in organizing a celebration of Juneteenth. So that proclamation can be found as attachment on our city site. So the next order of business is E2, is a presentation and possible action on appointment to fill the vacant seat of Candace Vessella, her unexpired term on the Board of Adjustment. And I'd like to put forward Ron Krajewski to fill this term. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we appoint Ron Krajewski to the unexpired term to the Board of Adjustment.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we appreciate Ron's willingness to serve in that capacity. And as I mentioned, there's a July, is it July 5th?
July 5th.
Okay, okay, that's our next time they'll convene. So he'll have to come up to speed pretty quickly. So perhaps he can get some help internally. So the next is a presentation and possible action on an appointment of the board member of the Lewes BPW to be a liaison with the Lewes Planning Commission. And if I'm incorrect, they can correct me, but I believe it was Tom Owen that'll serve in that capacity. So I'm seeing nods back there. So we appreciate Tom serving in that ex officio capacity on the Planning Commission. And then finally, in terms of our recognitions tonight, we have the retirement of Jim Bachman. And I'd just like to give a brief, and I think, Sherry, if I'm not mistaken, you're also prepared to say some words, if I'm not mistaken? I'm not putting you on the spot. Okay, all right. But
We didn't get a motion for the previous one.
oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. We'll backtrack. Can I get a motion to accept Tom Owen as ex officio to the Planning Commission?
I'll make that motion that Tom Owen, become the BPW's liaison to the Lewes Planning Commission.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you for that. So I'll just read a brief descriptor that about Jim, and then we'll have Sherry if she doesn't mind. So Jim started actually with the Seaford Police Department back in 2008, and there he won a marksmanship award. In 2013, he earned a life-saving award. While in Seaford, he also achieved the rank of corporal before he joined the Lewes Police Department in May of 2015. In Lewes, private first class, Bachman was a certified Alice instructor, providing active shooter training for the community, including within our own city workforce. In May of 2021, Officer Bachman was injured in the line of duty. So we're here to honor Jim's retirement from the Lewes force tonight. And before I present Jim with a small token of our appreciation, I'd also just like to say that the police force represents, I know I've spoken about this with my other council people, one of the main roles that we have in government is the protection and safety of our citizens. And the officers who are in this room, and that includes Officer Bachman, serve that role for us with courage. And it's often a thankless role. They're often unseen given some of the hours that they keep. And it's a sacrifice also to their families that are at home waiting for them and not knowing what they might encounter that day or that night. So before I present this, I'll share if you would come on up and maybe reintroduce yourself and also you go ahead.
I am Corporal Captain Sherry Hartman. I'm with Milton Police Department, previously of Lewes. And we also have here today, where did he go? Lieutenant Miller He's from Seaford. He also worked with Officer Bachman. We have Linwood, Linville, who is also an officer with Seaford. We have the SRO of Rehoboth, which is Rob Cisco. We have Corporal Anthony Valente, which is with Dagsboro. And then we have Dave Laura, who is now retired from Lewes, but is an officer with University of Delaware. Is that everybody? Oh, no, where's Chase? There's Chase. And then we have Chase in the back. Chase was one of our seasonals for 3 years. And he is now just got promoted to detective for Baltimore County.
Oh, congratulations.
So you have a group of us that are from Lewes, that worked in Lewes, worked together, worked with Bachman. And what I can say about Bachman is, I could say so much about Bachman. But we'll keep it brief. Yes, it's being recorded. And his famous saying was, well, what had happened was. But to get to the heart of it, he came to Lewes. He grew up here. He went through school here. So when he left Seaford, he came to Lewes because he wanted to work in the community that he grew up in. He wanted to make a difference. He wanted to be a part of that. When he was here, his main goal was to make sure the community's safe, make sure all the officers come home safe to their families. And he did that brilliantly. He worked very hard. He worked long hours, and he was always that one. As you guys know, if something happens, he was always right there to back you up. So he's done a good job. He enjoyed the Alice training, which you got into a little bit about. Did you guys have any of that training?
Our
Yes.
council hasn't, but do you want to explain what it is? Because it is really
Bachman,
important.
would you like to
especially-
explain what Alice training is? So he would,
So
he
for those
went,
listening
yep.
at home, it's
So he
about-
went around the community and he became an instructor. So he would teach facilities. He taught here. Where else did you teach?
Phoebe,
Yeah. Yeah, the Children's Beach House. So he would go in, do scenarios, teach them to where, if an active shooter incident happened, what you should do, what you shouldn't do. Put people in those incidences because you don't know what you're going to do until you're actually in that environment. And then he would help train them to, in the event something happened, to be better, to be prepared, so that everyone did stay safe and everyone did go home, which was basically what he was all about.
That's excellent. Excellent.
And as for Chase, he helped build Chase up to get to where he was. They taught him how to write tickets, taught him how to handle complaints.
Yeah.
And then in Seaford, I'm sure they have stories, but we won't get into that.
That's
But we would just like to say that we are all here to honor him, and we feel very pleasured and humbled to have worked with him. And we thank him for his dedication and his honor that he gave to the city.
Thank you, Captain Harmon. And it shows, the number of colleagues that showed up to lend their support. Jim, I won't put you on the spot, but if you would like to say something, you're more than welcome, or else I can, as I said, I do have a small token to give you, or if you'd like to address your colleagues, feel free.
Just for a moment.
Yeah, please do.
Thank you.
All right, you got- you gotta go quick.
Name and address.
License and registration.
Thank you all for coming. It's, I don't even know what to say, but I would like first of all to recognize a moment of silence for Deputy Hillard, who was killed last night, and he did not make it home. And that's what these guys have to face every day. So give them every bit of respect that you can possibly muster. Thank you guys for coming out.
Not just to Lewes, but all best luck in the next chapter.
Thank you, sir.
And I'm sure they're not unhappy that you're retiring. All the best. Okay. What's this? Okay.
While they're lining up, I just want to say, Jim, it's been an absolute pleasure working with you, and I look forward to just bumping into you out and about.
I'll be around. I'll be the shaggy.
I know.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's give them a moment. Okay. So again, thank you to our police force and all they do. The next section of our agenda is F, which is our consent agenda. So before we vote on the consent agenda, is there anything, I didn't want to go through the BPW minutes, but I wanted to use this as an opportunity to let Austin talk us through maybe some of the highlights for BPW. And then if there are others that we wanted to pull after Austin goes, we can do that.
Good evening, guys.
Introduce yourself, Austin.
Austin Calman, General Manager for Lewes Board of Public Works.
Thank you, sir.
So I'd start with just a couple projects. So we have the Pollocktown Road project, and that's from basically part 2, New Road to Dairy.
Is that on? Okay,
it's on.
seems to be, okay.
So we're continuing the water and sewer services. And then paving would start from New Road to the dairy. And then we also have to do the abandonment of the existing water main per DelDOT. So we just have to use flowable fill. Shooting for the utility work to end about middle July, and then paving to be right around that time. It's going to be weather dependent, similar to what happened on the part 1 piece, which the paving came about a week late. Then we have the Savannah Road Sewer Extension Project. We're finishing up, or Mumford and Miller's finishing up in the parking lot as we speak. They have the water main to go across the bike path, and that will be done at night. And there will be signs out coordinated with the closing of the bike path. There'll be detours for the bike path. And then there's 2 sewer stubs that ultimately will put 2 manholes in the entrances of Cooper Circle and Central, I believe, for Dunham and Smith. And then the paving would be done with that project. We're shooting for an early July, maybe middle of July for paving to be complete for that project. And then the last one would be the Tower Hill and New Road, and all the utility work is complete there. Electrical conduits and electric hasn't been pulled simply because the developer's not ready for it at Lewes Waterfront Preserve quite yet.
I'll subject to your question. When your next meeting, just remind everyone that the time
The
is.
29th. Usually it's the 4th Wednesday. We did the 5th Wednesday this month.
Okay.
So it'd be the 29th, 4 p.m.
4 p.m.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Austin. And so I said, is that,
As far as the consent agenda.
yeah, is everything else?
The only thing I would ask, I'd like to be indulged here. I did not have a chance to read the meeting minutes for the February 14th.
Okay, so you,
Meetings, so I'd
so-
like to pull those.
so you'll accept the
Except
March 2nd, the Board of Public Works, the Finance, the Police Department and Fire Department. We can accept all those as consent.
Yes, yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, so Anne Marie, oh, I'm sorry.
And you wanted a second.
Oh, we did.
I didn't
A
hear-
motion.
Oh.
Somebody motion to approve
Okay.
the consent agenda.
Sorry,
Trying to be efficient, I know, but
So you need the first motion.
I need a first and a second and then all in favor.
Right, so I'll make a motion that the consent agenda be approved with the exception of the mayor and council meeting minutes for February 14th.
Okay. All right, now we got a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks. Okay, now we're on to G, presentation of city manager's report. So do we have that
Put the
pulled up?
PowerPoint up. All right. I'm just going to say Austin stole my thunder because I was going to start with capital projects, and really the real capital projects happening in town right now are the BPW projects that Austin talked about. The other big thing is that we are continuing to work on the design for the Monroe Railroad and Adams Avenue. So we plan to have the bid documents ready late summer, meet again with the residents, and then hopefully start construction in the late fall. So the other things, The only other thing that Austin didn't cover is we finalized the design to go out to bid for the Otis Smith and Schley Avenue parking lots. So that again will go to bid in late summer for fall construction. We spent much of May preparing for the summer. We had implementation of beach parking, which the big part of that was delineating parking at Roosevelt Inlet. And we worked with residents regarding requests for the reserved on-street parking for residents that did not have any off-street parking. Those signs were delayed. I am glad to say they have finally come in and they were installed on Friday. So at this point, I think we've coordinated everything. We've gotten everything installed, so we're in good shape. And then we had the disappointing news that we had to announce that there would be no lifeguards on the beach. And then Kent Buxton contacted us and worked with us to very quickly hire Strom Edwards, who's an experienced lifeguard and swim coach. Captain Edwards was hired and he has built a team of lifeguards for the summer. So we have a variety of part-time and full-time lifeguards. And while we thought we weren't going to have the beach guarded, we were able to, with the assistance of Captain Edwards and Captain Buxton, turn that around very quickly. So thank you to them and to all of the young people who stepped up and applied for lifeguard jobs. The big exciting thing is, and Ellen Lorraine, I think everybody knows, Ellen Lorraine and Carolyn worked very hard to get the Lewes line preparations ready, and the service was launched on May 23rd, and it's been running since, which I will get to that in a second to give you the first week stats, because we really only ran a week during the month of May. These are our building permits. We actually had more building permits than normal. We had, I think, 82 building permits total, four of which were new home construction during the month of May. You can see on this regarding our refuse collection, we had 9 tons of beach rake that we disposed of. That is because the maintenance department spent much of the month of May repairing the beach from the damage from the nor'easter that happened on, what was it, May 12th or something, 12th or 13th, right around there. Yeah, the Mother's Day week. And they spent a lot of hours on the beach, grooming the beach, clearing crossovers and clearing debris. So that was obviously an important part of our operations. And bonfires, we are up to 60 bonfires during the month of May. So we are getting busy again. And then we had 26 new business licenses and 6 rental licenses. And 2 of those 6 rental licenses were based on the enforcement we had through host compliance.
So those are residential. What?
Yes.
rental?
And you know what, Blue, I accidentally skipped the Lewes line. There we go. Sorry. I wanted to spend a second on this, the operations. So in that first, I think it was 8 days of running the Lewes line, we had 107 passengers. We sold 4 frequent rider cards. We had $103 in fees. And you can see, if you look at the chart, that the big origin and destinations seem to be the Cape May, Lewes Ferry, and 2nd and Market Streets. Those seem to be the big destinations. Now, again, that was only one weekend. That was Memorial Day weekend. We are continuing to collect the data every day as people get on and off the bus. And we are seeing the numbers continue to increase as it catches on. And we're seeing kind of more of a distribution among all of the various stops. But really, I think we're going to continue to see the ferry terminal and 2nd and Market as pretty big locations.
I think it's important to note that starting in July, the Cape and Logan High School will become the start
Right.
for that. And I think that will help attract a lot of people coming from out of town or visitors from
Yes.
outside the limits who will park there.
Yeah,
And
so,
then-
so if you look at this, we had 3 pickups and 4 drop-offs at the high school. And that, it was only open for that one weekend. It wasn't open every day.
Mhm.
So I think once July comes and we
Right.
have it as a regular, that we will
And more
see.
awareness, public
Yeah.
awareness is important.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yep. So,
For sure.
so I think, I think it's exciting because.
The tips need to get up.
Yeah.
I mean,
There you go.
Come on, people.
I have a question about the unaccounted. Do we know what happened there?
I think that's,
Just say the market. Yeah.
Just unable to track those pickups and drop offs.
Okay.
where they just didn't mark the
I thought we had
destination.
Phantom Rider.
No.
I did get a email yesterday from a friend on Lewes Beach who couldn't stop raving about one of our drivers named Linda.
Oh, yeah, Linda.
You know, she said he spent like, 40 minutes with her. So she was so engaging. She was terrific. She was encouraging people to take the bus and telling stories while they were on there.
Yeah.
He went for a ride. And he just said, he said she was terrific. A
Yeah.
great ambassador for the city.
We were talking to Tony, several of us hopped on the bus when we saw Tony out there and he took us around the loop and he was telling us, he'll tell people, oh, there's where you can go to get this. Oh, that's a good restaurant. Oh, you can go here.
Right.
So I think the bus drivers are really engaging the riders.
It was
So-
nice one day when he picked up folks down at the ferry, brought them up to Second Street for lunch, and then clocked what time they needed to take it to go back to the ferry, which I thought was really nice.
Yeah, so one of the things that Tony figured out on like day 1 or 2 is that if he tried to time it so that he arrives at the ferry right as they're letting off, people will come right out of the ferry terminal and hop on. So, so it's good news. So if we could go to, right, that one, okay. We did have an internal meeting to talk about vegetation impeding the right of way. So by that, we're talking about vegetation that's growing over sidewalks and impeding pedestrian passage, blocking stop signs or other traffic control or making visibility at intersections tough. So our code enforcement officer is going to be looking for that because that is an issue where we get a lot of complaints as the summer.
How's that then messaged to the offender, let's say?
So what happens is when there is, where there's a violation determined, Jonathan, our code enforcement officer, will issue a letter to the property owner and either hand deliver it or put it in the mail, and provide a period of time to comply and then follow up. So,
Yeah.
I mean, for the most part, once somebody gets a reminder, they're pretty good about cleaning it up. So we developed an orientation program for our many appointed officials to our boards, commissions, and committees. The training was actually last Wednesday. It was well attended. And one of the things that we determined as we prepared for it is we have, I think, about 75 or 80 appointed people. So we've talked about the importance of volunteerism in this community. And when you realize that the number of people serving on boards and commissions and committees outnumbers the staff that we have, I think that is, again, a testament to the engagement of the volunteers that really make things happen in this town. We met on site with residents. Hold on, I'm sorry. We met here, not on site, with Donovan Smith Homeowners Association leadership so that we could begin to build a relationship with them. We are planning a community meeting here in this room with all residents to be invited on June 27th. We took over trash and recycling for Donovan Smith on May 23rd. So we are continuing to work with kind of bringing them into the community.
You mean, when you say community, like all communities, that like any neighborhood are invited to attend that?
Well, we're specifically, I mean, we wouldn't shut anybody out, but
It's
we're gonna, yes, we're gonna be reaching out to all of the residents of Donovan Smith so that if they have questions about city services, we're gonna have all of our major departments represented.
But that's it.
What time is that? I think it's at 6. Does that?
Yes.
And
Is
that
that-
meeting is for the community of Donaldson?
Yes.
Or just the HOA leadership?
No, that one, the meeting we had in May was with the leadership, and then this will be for the entirety of the community.
Thank you.
On May 12th, Mayor Becker, Melody, and I went to Legislative Hall with the other municipalities. We had, we met in the Lieutenant Governor's office in Tatnall. Met with her and some of her staff, and then we went over to Legislative Hall and we all talked to our legislators and just really, tried to remind the legislators how important the municipalities are, and hope that they'll help us with our needs. On May 11th, the staff, two of us, Ellen Lorraine and I, and Carolyn and Khalil attended the annual Sussex County Association of Realtors breakfast with coastal communities, where we talk about, what to expect, so that it's an opportunity for the real estate rental folks to coordinate with the municipality so they know what's changed. I had, and I think I'm reading as well, a meeting with a company called Chantel Go Fiber about a possible franchise agreement for broadband service. So that would be an option that would be, you'd have choices. So they are currently in Salisbury. They do not yet have any franchise agreements in Delaware, but we are looking at both our Comcast agreement and the agreement they have with Salisbury to start to look at how we can put together.
I was gonna say,
something.
you talk us through that. There's no restriction to having, it's not an exclusive
There's no
franchise.
I don't think we're even allowed to do exclusive.
So
So-
this would be another option for people to look at.
Yes.
And we'd invite others.
And I didn't know anything about this. This is most hopeful, I think. Have we included the BPW in these discussions?
At this point, it's just been about the idea of a franchise agreement, and it's really been, I think we've had a total of maybe 20 minutes of conversation and sharing documents so that we can start to kind of develop a framework.
Right. I would just encourage if their business plan is to bring fiber into the
Okay.
community, and if they're not burying it, they're going to be putting it on poles, and that does require some
Oh, right.
coordination.
Yeah,
with,
so we haven't even gotten
I
into
understand.
how they're, yeah, right. And then on May 14th, there was an election and we have a new mayor who was sworn in on the 23rd, and then council subsequently appointed a new council person who was sworn in on June 1st. So here we are, whole new body. And that's my report.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anne Marie. Okay.
Great. That's my story.
One other change I did forget to mention in the beginning that we will, that's new. We will be taking public comment at the end. So that is to say, you all may make comments about some of the things that have happened as they pertain to tonight's agenda or future agendas, but we don't anticipate a dialogue with council. It's really just an opportunity. And then Aaron, we'll use as an opportunity for you to posit some questions. Okay. So let's go now to H, which is our unfinished business. And that is the ARPA request summary. So just to bring people up to speed for those that may be new to the story. The City of Lewes was allocated almost 1.8 million, so 1.793 through the Rescue Plan Act. And we got half of this last June, and we expect to get the other half this June. And so far, we've only spent around 30 grand. The remaining is still roughly the 1.8, so 1.767. We've had several meetings, workshops, other letters, requests, et cetera, for what we can perceive so far to be ARPA eligible requests. And there are 4 that we've listed here, which are Family Promise, Lewes BPW, the Milford Housing Development Corporation, and the Lewes Fire Department. Since we have had so much input on this, I don't know if anyone is ready to make some sort of motion in terms of how we might consider allocating these funds, and then we can have a discussion from there. Okay.
I can actually give you the allocations and you can then make decisions based on what I give you.
Yeah, let me get a pen.
Do it that way?
Okay.
And as it pertains to any information that goes with any one of them, Anne Marie will fill in the dots.
Okay, and maybe for the audience, we can pull up the I think there was a summary sheet as part of the agenda that shows their full request. If you don't mind pulling that up for the audience, particularly that's online. It would just say in terms of the agenda sheet, the background information sheet. Do you see that one on there? Okay, yeah.
Computer's acting goofy.
He's good.
It's-
So the very first one, see where it says report summary? Yeah, you got it. Request PDF. Right there. There we go. Thank you. Okay, just scroll down a little bit so we can see again. So these are the requests.
And just so you know, I forgot to take case manager.
Yeah,
off
no
of
worries. We
this.
understand that.
So
Oh,
now
for
it's
the-
just rental assistance.
Yeah, and by the way, the Family Promise did a great job of getting us, we were told at our last public hearing that this was particular salaries not eligible, but they were able to come back with other needs that they had. So we have that. So appreciate that. But the amounts hold true in terms of the requested amounts, correct? Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead, Karen. I'm sorry to interrupt that.
No, you didn't interrupt at all. What I'm going to do right now is just tell you exactly what we allocated. And then if anyone has any issues with it, we can discuss it.
Okay.
For the VPW, we issued 900,000. For Dutchmans Harvest, the Milford, 200,000 with the understanding.
So the idea with Milford Housing is that it would be conditioned the following, that the funds would not be transferred in a lump sum, but would rather be transferred at the time of settlement for each unit, that quarterly reports would be submitted, and that if funds are not allocated by September 2023, the city reserves the right to reconsider the allocation. Additionally, this is contingent on the Milford Housing Development Corporation's ability to secure sufficient subsidy to offer the units to qualifying households based on the affordability at the target area median income.
Okay, so just for, slow people like me, that means what the numbers he showed us presuppose that he gets all of those other funding mechanisms. That's what you're
Yes,
proposing?
Absolutely, as long as he.
Okay, is everyone clear on that? So remember when he showed us the grid and there were other funding sources besides us, and we asked to order to get to that number, you needed all those sources to hit. What I think what you're saying is for us to allocate the money to them, they also need the commitments from those other.
And
Just that they have enough subsidy. So they showed some in their presentation, some possible funding sources. It doesn't need to be that sources. It just needs to be enough subsidy to make
To
that.
be at the table,
Right.
to get them more, to
To
essentially
get
be
them
at the table.
in at the threshold.
Okay,
So are you saying that, is this working? I can't tell if it's working. Oh, there you go.
Yes.
So we're saying, Carolyn, you mentioned $200,000.
Mhm.
So if they meet all the various other funding opportunities that they're pursuing, that we would allocate the full 200,000 or the other 250,000 that they requested?
No, that it would be the 200,000 that Councilperson Jones is suggesting we allocate is contingent on those conditions.
So 200,000 is
Is the number.
That's what we're doing now.
okay. So instead, what you're saying is they asked for 450, we're offering them 200.
We're
Okay,
doing 100.
just so we're clear. Okay.
For Family Promise, it's 60,000. For the fire department, it is 10,000. That's all based upon, what was that you had for them? For the fire
It
department?
would be, the current allocation would be $10,000 for the purpose of architectural work.
See, they're
um,
not at a stage where,
Right, they're not,
They're not ready. to
Right, they're-
start anything.
they're looking at kind of a large range. So until they have the architectural work done, Mrs. Jones' idea was that we would hold off on additional allocation, but
have
with,
it ready if and when.
right, with what she's proposed, it does not fully allocate all of the ARPA funds.
So
So we're at 1.107 basic or 1.70. So this scenario leaves you roughly
About
500K.
something, right.
So what you're saying is any of these organizations may be able to come back and,
Well, we're looking at the possibility of coming back with the Dutchmans Harvest based on, how it progresses, and the fire department, how they progress.
So the fire department's getting 10 or 15,000. How
Because
much?
that's what they need. That's
Yeah.
what they put in
Yes,
for
they
right
would
now.
So
start-
they're doing it, they're going to do a study and figure
well,
out,
It's not a study, they'll do their architectural.
so they're
design.
going to do their designs and then they will come back
And-
and potentially say, we have a budget of this, can you do X?
Right.
Correct.
May I
Exactly.
interrupt this for a second? So you're discussing now, was that a motion that you made or was?
No, I wasn't making a
Oh,
motion.
that
I
was not a
just
motion
simply
yet.
reading.
okay.
Right.
But, until after discussion.
We're okay still to have discussion though, right?
Well,
Okay.
do you
Okay,
want to
and
put
then
it
we-
on the table?
Can
Because
I, well,
I-
I also want a clarification around, so the one thing you said about Dutchman's Harvest was the 2023.
September.
When do we have to have commitments for them to these people to start spending them, whoever we
But
award it
before
to?
Well,
20
So all of the funds are required to be allocated by December 31st, 2024,
Right.
and fully spent by December 31st, 2026.
Right,
Okay, so that would still give us a year.
So it
to-
gives you time, yes.
right.
And does that 2023 date even work for the Dutchman's Harvest in terms of realistically selling those units
Well,
and?
that's just,
I mean,
that's just
I
it.
think, again, I think that it doesn't mean that the funding goes away in September 2023. What it means is that you would reconsider it, that,
There
so,
would be a chance for us to update our.
Yeah, we
Right.
can relook at it.
exactly.
That's what it would do.
Exactly.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Okay, so this
Does anyone
is,
have questions or want to second her motion?
all right, this is a motion. Does anybody have anything else to say about it or?
Yeah, I thought part of what we had talked about or that
That's not-
a few weeks ago was $100,000 for the city.
Oh, we forgot that. Yeah, I haven't, 100,000 for
Well-
HVAC.
Well, so
But
since
that's
that's our own, we would bring
Right.
that to you with the project specifics. So I don't think you need to allocate to the city because there's still money being held back. So at the point in time when we have the finite numbers on the HVAC things that are ARPA eligible, we would bring it forward.
And that's just it. We're not really sure they're all
Right.
ARPA eligible, to
Okay.
be honest.
So we have these 1, 2,
So you've got 900, 200,
Right.
160, and 10.
right.
Is this clear enough as a motion? then?
Kayla, do you have it?
Kelly, do you need to,
Down the way
do
that-
you need to make a motion on this?
Make a motion.
I have everything written down.
I
have one question.
Go,
Fire department, 10 or 100?
10.
10.
10, okay, you said 100.
100 was HVAC.
HVAC, which we're not including in
Which
this
not-
motion,
No, but we,
correct?
yes, that's why I put it. on.
Okay, I have
Right.
everything.
Okay, so,
Right, and that's the motion. You understand? That's the
Yes, I
motion.
have all of it.
All right, good.
okay. And that is the motion at this point, then do we just take a vote? then?
We need a second.
Second,
You need a
I'll second
All
it.
right, who's sec, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay. And so
Well-
just to be clear before we take a vote, the motion is that we award DPW 900K. We're awarding Dutchman's Harvest with the contingency that they are able to achieve other funding sources to finance the buyers by 2023.
Mhm.
We want quarterly reports to sort of substantiate that.
Yes,
And Family Promise, 60,000. Lewes Fire Department, 10,000 for an engineering study.
Right.
And Eleanor, do you have your abacus there? How much that leaves us for,
I know how much.
About.
how much that's total? Is it 1.170?
It was 1.760.
Okay.
1170.
So for a total allocation of 1.170 less to be held in reserve for allocation before 2024?
This
Okay.
2024, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay, so we have a motion and a second
yes.
on that. I'll call it to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
That's 5-0.
And so, by the way, I'd just like to reiterate, there is money held back. So for for other organizations, ourselves, or particularly Lewes Fire Department, I want you to feel shortchanged.
Yeah, right.
We need the engineering study to really take a next step with you guys. Okay.
And that's what they
And
put
just
us.
one other thing, we did get a request from the library that is HVAC related. And on first glance, it does not appear to be eligible, but again, we're going to go back to Leah. And, if there is a portion that is eligible,
Right.
we would bring that forward as well.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And the next agenda item is the presentation and possible action regarding the West Cedar Street mitigation study. There is an attachment here. We've seen this in I think previously in a workshop,
I think the May workshop.
and I think it's I don't know if Charlie, if you don't mind, maybe just coming forward and just seeing, telling us just at a high level what the benefits of this would be, and sort of what I guess we're expected to do as a next step.
Sure thing. This is Charlie O'Donnell, George Miles Bureau City Engineering Consultant. We did complete the study of the flood mitigation out on West Cedar Avenue, which has been a consistent problem through the years. As the mayor mentioned, there's a PowerPoint presentation in your packet that summarizes our report, which was also like a 35, 40-page report. The idea is to create a tide gate system that would continue to allow normal tide function to come in and out of the marshlands in that area, to keep the existing marshlands healthy. But when there's an extreme surge tide event, the self-regulating tide gates would shut themselves down. And as an insurance policy, we're also putting regular sluice gates in as part of the design, which if we have advanced notice of an upcoming surge tide situation, the city or the board could go out there and shut the sluice gates along with allowing the self-regulating tide gates to work the way they're supposed to. So the whole idea is that we're going to eliminate those surge tides from coming up to the backside of West Cedar Avenue like they do right now. And because of the grades, we were only able to get it up to a certain height. We're actually raising the berm a little bit too, because we didn't want to push any surge tides out to the surrounding property. So that was factored into the design. The project was estimated in the vicinity of $2.3 million for construction, engineering, and all other administrative fees. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe council's action tonight would be, I guess, to accept our report, but also to consider Janelle and I pursuing the DEMA hazard mitigation grant for the actual construction of the project, which we've started on that application process. It's a 75%, 25% matching grant. They fund 75, the city would fund 25.
75, 25?
And that's 75% of the 2.3 mil?
Yes. So,
And is this seeking the grant sort of like a proposal of marriage? And if so, is there an annulment clause?
I haven't looked at this one all the way to the end of the dotted line, but my experience with all these types of grants is you're not committed until you actually sign the binding agreement.
That's not fine.
I know you had talked previously about when we talked about this in early May, you had said that you wanted to let the BPW discuss it. So I did ask Austin to provide an update on the BPW's discussion of it as well.
Thank you.
So we didn't actually take action. I mean, we listened to the same presentation that you guys got, maybe a little bit more dumbed down, but in.
It was the exact same presentation.
Austin knows his audience. He knows his audience.
Tom, do you have any comments that you'd like to add?
It's the Three Stooges.
We got everybody.
Talk about it. No, I mean, Charlie did use smaller words with us, but it was basically the same presentation. And, we have no comments on it. It doesn't really impact our stormwater system. And we have recognized that it's an issue for that area. And, it's the city council's decision.
And can you remind who then is the city's responsibility to maintain? Is it DENREC's responsibility to maintain? The Army Corps engineer?
It would be the city of Lewes, unless, it would not be DENREC. It would be the city of Lewes and or their assignees.
So can we assign that to the BPW?
Hear that train.
I feel like it could be assigned to the Board of Public Works.
So just so you know, there's not a whole lot of maintenance involved with the system. It's just going out there quarterly and checking to make sure that the tide gate valves are operational and that there's not something sticking to keep them open. Every once a year, you've got to grease the sluice gates so they go up and down when you need them. So there's not a whole lot of maintenance to it.
You want to add it to your emergency preparedness though, right? Because as storms come through, you're going to drop the sluice gates and so forth.
Yeah, if we have advance notice of like we oftentimes do, and 2 days ahead of time, we'd shut those sluice gates quick.
So that's what I mean. Who would go? So would like someone on Rick's team go out there and do that?
I would say.
Is it, I mean, does that need training? Like, is it hard to do?
It's a pretty simple, maybe a
do
little
it
bit of training.
By land or by sea?
Well, you'll be able to get out to them because
Okay.
we're going to have an access way
Okay.
across the top of the berm. Yeah, I forgot to mention that. Yeah.
Charles, I know you've given the ballpark figure of 2.3 mil. My question is that a recent estimate for the construction cost? I seem to be well aware that no one seems to be.
It was this year.
It was this
Yeah.
calendar year. Yeah.
No.
Just a couple other things to consider, which I think are benefits of the project, is that there's some repetitive events out there that various parcels get affected by. So this would help to eliminate that. It would definitely help you on your flood insurance. CRS, yeah, scoring, if you put this in. So just a couple other added benefits.
I remember asking the question before about the number of properties that would benefit from this infrastructure. Do we have a number now?
I think I did calculate a number, but I would just say that it's pretty much from Michigan Avenue all the way through Iowa Avenue. That's the affected area now. And it doesn't go all the way to Bay Avenue. Because the beachside homes are higher, it wouldn't, you wouldn't include those in the affected homes. When we do our application, we actually have to do a complete benefit cost analysis the FEMA way. So that'll be part of what we put together when we put the application together.
So if we sent you away and said, yeah, go ahead and do the grant and market conditions get worse, we have a parachute.
Yes.
How much does it cost to generally to apply for a grant?
Have we gotten a proposal for that phase yet?
No, I would say less than $5,000.
All right, well, I've asked my questions.
I have one more question. This grant money would be coming from DEMA. How soon would you have a response from them to your application?
Yeah, we talked to them, 3 months ago, and they said, get it in as fast as possible. It would be early fall, I think, by the time they digest the various applications and comment on ours. If they get other applications, I don't know who else would be submitting.
So there is a date out there somewhere where they say all apps requests have to be in by.
It was open, wasn't it?
This one was open, but they wanted, the sooner we got it in,
Right.
I think it was the better shot that the city could have to get the funding.
Yeah.
Because there was a set amount of money. So if somebody came in with a larger project that then could eat up the funding that the city could be asking for. And I got an email last week asking if we were still looking at submitting for the grant funding. And I said, we're still looking into it. So,
So the
you
sooner
know,
the better.
And Tom,
Correct.
I don't, and if you don't want to answer, that's fine too, but I know it doesn't impact your stormwater, but are you willing to opine of whether you think this is a logical
Well,
engineering?
I will speak separately from pure BPW as being on the chairman of the Sea Level Rise Committee and the Lewes Executive Committee, and think that this is an important project. That's Tom Panetta personally speaking.
I would just add that at our joint council meeting, BPW council meeting, both Anne Marie and I said that looking at that whole area holistically is probably a very good approach. I mean, obviously this puts a Band-Aid on a bullet hole, but at the end of the day, it probably does make sense to get, you know, an entire holistic approach to that side of town and regardless the entire town. We had a study.
Which we actually submitted a grant to Denrec for.
Yeah, we had a study done. When was that stormwater study done?
2012.
2012. And that kind of mapped out what we have currently. But times have changed since 2012, so.
And I just, GMB has done a lot of research on this and it has evolved over time. And, you know, I think what they've done is a credible background and is a meaningful path forward.
Yeah, I do. Not a question, just a comment on exactly what you just said, Tom, and I appreciate that. You know, we've all reviewed this and pretty closely, and I've actually heard some comments / complaints like about this project, like why are we doing this? Do we know it really works? Has this been tested? And I've tried to respond and show them, as you know, yes, this is not something that's commonly done everywhere, but this is technology and a process that has worked in some areas. And it kind of perplexes me a little bit, frankly, because I think one of the things at a state and local level that we should be doing is we're kind of considered laboratories of experiment, even though this is not exactly an experiment, it has proven to work. But I applaud you for moving forward in the research on this, because I think it's needed. And Tom mentioned, you know, I mean, Tom follows sea level rise probably closer than anyone. And, you know, if he thinks it's a good idea, I mean, many others do, but I was kind of just put off by some who think it's a waste of money. How do you know it's going to work? And I'm like, at some point, we have to evaluate all our options and use our best judgment to pick the best mitigation strategy for these things.
And the one thing I would add to that is that, you know, every location and application is different.
Right,
So
of course.
This is not like an engineering study where all the parameters are fixed. It's based on topology, geology, wind fetch, all those things. So can I stand up here, and I don't think Charlie would either, say, this will prevent everything? No, because no one knows. It's a Monte Carlo technique of what are the risks. And,
right.
I think what GMB is proposing is the best attempt.
Agreed.
I mean, I would just say that we know it won't work for everything. We know it won't work for some of the historical storms that have occurred. But for example, the October 2020 Zeta system, it would have worked for that. It would have eliminated all the flooding back up on Cedar Avenue. As far as the self-regulating tide gate valve system up in Kitshummock, Delaware, they have that system in place and they use it all the time down in Norfolk with, the variety of flooding problems they have.
Thank you. I appreciate all your work on this.
I have one follow-up question, Charlie, for you. I think you described it as part of the DEMA process review. I'm not sure of that, but I think I heard you speak to addressing what if this infrastructure is constructed, what possible effects it might have on surrounding areas, by the water not moving as it does now. It would be managed. And the question is that part of what DEMA looks at, or does anyone look at that to make sure that we're not pushing the problem somewhere else in some other area of the community?
Under design, the whole project will be reviewed by DEMA, FEMA, the Corps of Engineers, DNREC, and we'll have to show what we plan to do in the system and the storm surges that it'll take care of. And that's the reason why we're only building the berm up a certain height. We can't build it up to any higher, or it would create a problem getting to the outside and onto private property. So we've figured that out, but everybody would have to review it.
Right.
And
So we're just not shifting that problem that presently exists between Iowa and Michigan downstream.
No, absolutely not. And remember, this is just during storm surge events.
Yeah.
So as soon as those 2 or 3 or 4 days go by, we open everything back up and it behaves normal again. Because
If there's striper in there, they'll leave those.
Yeah.
we'll let you know.
Thank you, Charlie. Yeah, appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so does anyone care to make a motion? 'Cause I think, as we've said, as we've heard, at this point, they're looking for really the exploration of the grant, which is a 75-25 match. That would, if awarded, that would be roughly 600K that we would be on the hook for the upfront and then to maintain.
So
We're just looking for the authorization to formally submit an application.
Yeah, which we've heard is around $5,000 at
They
most.
come back
Yeah.
before.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's a minimum of 5,000.
Okay, so, yeah,
Right.
so, again, anyone care to make a motion, or we can discuss further if you?
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we authorize
Yes.
funding for the DEMA study or DEMA project and the 75-25 match.
Absolutely. And I'll second that, definitely.
Okay, so we got a
Is that
motion.
sufficient?
And that includes the submission of the application?
Yep.
Yes, that does.
Authorize
We
the
just want to-
submission of the, I was trying to,
Sure.
submission of the
Absolutely.
application.
Yes.
Okay, so we got a motion and we have a second. We call to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so that's fine. I have that at 5-0 then.
Right.
Okay, and for those who are online, we didn't show through because we have seen this on the workshop, but there is an attachment and it has some slides that talks through, again, at a high level, why and some of the renderings of what this flapper valve system looks like. And then there are some maps that show kind of a before and after effect there. So feel free to look at that, the link on the agenda. And
the video of the May 5th workshop would also have the
Yeah.
full presentation. And it was presented to the Planning Commission as well. I can't remember the date, but
what was again the date on the
the May 5th.
May 5th? Okay, so that for those who are on YouTube, it's the May 5th workshop.
Right.
Okay, thanks, Anne Marie, for that.
Right.
Okay. So the next item on our agenda is unfinished business. This past week, we had a public hearing. There is a background report regarding the purchase of 203 Savannah. So just, I'll read a bit of that background. And again, this is on our agenda. So in the spring of 2022, the City of Lewes entered a discussion with members of White Bucks LLC regarding the possibility of the city purchasing 2 lots owned by White Bucks LLC at the corner of Cape Henlopen Drive in Savannah, which is 203 East Savannah Road. The site has recently received site development plan approval for ground level parking and 12 residential units. Given the perennial parking challenges facing Lewes and the desire to preserve open space, the mayor and city council determined it was important to consider the possible purchase of the property before the property became developed. The city negotiated a contract with the property owner in the amount of $2.5 million. The sale is subject to action by mayor and city council following a public hearing. The public hearing was held on June 6, 2022, with the record open for public comments until 4 p.m. on June 10th, 2022. Okay. So just a bit, again, as a reminder, the sale price of the property is $2.5 million, and this would be proposed to be financed through a local bank. And the city would, again, the proposal would be that the city would pay interest only for 3 years and then begin making principal and interest payments. And this was derived from sourcing that from 3 different banks. So what I'd like to see, again, there is an offer out. We've heard through a public hearing is the offer is to buy the property. So what I'd like to hear as a motion is either a yes, we do intend to buy that property, or a motion of no, and then a second to one of those motions, and then we can discuss, or we can just call it to a vote.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we approve the purchase of 203 East Savannah for the terms negotiated, and I'll explain why, which I think is necessary as well. We did have a public hearing. There was a lot of really good debate. There were a lot of really good comments we also received. I would say they were all thoughtful for the most part and gave us a lot to think about. I support the purchase because I see it as an opportunity to secure this future uses, preserve our options for the future. And I think that's really important. And my original thoughts on it were it could be used for multiple reasons. Parking, we've talked about, open space, it could be stormwater management. And so those were like some of the top things. It also could be a park. But just to demonstrate why I think it's important to secure our future options, I learned of a new option, many of us did this week, and that is that it could be a can-do park. I never frankly knew what a can-do park was when we were talking about it with the Great Marsh workshop. And that's a park for children with physical limitations. So I use that as an example of one reason why we should secure this parcel is because we don't even know in the future what could be developed and what could be a future use of 203. So I found that to be very compelling to me, and it even reinforced more in my mind that this is a really good opportunity for the city, not just for immediate needs, but for future needs. I really want, and I know that certainly a lot of the comments that came in were concerned about the price tag of $2.5 million. And it is a big number. There's no question, especially for a town the size of Lewes. I did take it upon myself to reach out to some in the community who have a background and care a lot about philanthropy. And I was able to at least get a conversation going. I'm very confident if we secured this, that there'd be substantial anywhere between 250 and 500,000 raised. We also heard at that Great Marsh workshop that the Lewes Rotary is willing to raise money for a can-do park. So I bring that all up, and just that I think this is a really good opportunity for us, a unique opportunity for us to secure a piece of property within a block from the beach that could have multiple purposes and at least we would now secure and have control over this unique piece of property. I mean, I mentioned earlier, actually, we're talking about the state and local government being laboratories of experiment. I mean, again, I've listed some of the reasons or some of the purposes, but there could be other purposes that we don't even know about in 5-10 years that we could use that parcel for. So for those reasons, I submit again, make the motion that we approve this purchase.
So we have a motion in the favor of yes to purchase. Do we have a second? Okay, call it again. Do we have a second? Or do we have an alternate motion?
And remember, seconding is for purposes of discussion, doesn't mean you have to vote consistent with the motion.
Okay, I'm not getting a second, so do we have an alternate motion?
I'm not in favor of it. My reasons, if I may give them, have a lot to do with, I don't think we really have a plan for it. I don't really believe that, given the appraisal was lower than what we are going to pay for, that makes a lot of sense to me. The very idea that the city is pushing Lewes line to get cars out and people in is one of my strong reasons for saying the parking lot is completely out of the question. We have a $5 million reserve, the city's money. And to go into a 2.5 with that kind of reserve is sort of insecure, in my opinion. And we just really don't have a real plan, so I am not in favor of this.
Do we have a motion to deny the purchase? Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, I think you might be muted.
Do you need to repeat that?
Did you get it? We have a second.
Okay. got
Okay.
it.
So we have a motion and a second. Before we call it to a vote, is there anyone that more discussion at the table?
I'd like to hear more reasons. Tim, you seconded it. Do you have any additional reasons why this is a bad, it's not a good opportunity for the city of Lewes?
I did not prepare comments, but I will offer. I believe that a commitment like this requires a plan. And I approach this kind of purchase very much as if I was making a personal commitment that was hitting my own wallet. And it is true that you've outlined many different uses for the property, but the city does not have, the city, we do not have we don't have a plan. We don't have a policy for an acquisition such as this. And I will also suggest, and it's factual, that in our 2017 comp plan, the areas described as commercial. It's the comp plan suggests that we need to have more commercial activity on that side of the canal, if you will. And this moves the needle in a slight way in that direction.
Isn't that a good thing?
It's a good thing because the plan that we have approved is compliant with our zoning, and it allows for the commercial application with a mixed use of residential use on the same property. So I think that's a good place for us to be.
I'm not gonna say.
Still have a motion, a second. Do we want to call it to a vote?
I'd like to speak about
Okay.
my thoughts on the matter. I'm a new council person.
For those of you who don't know me, I have served the city in many volunteer capacities and look at financial matters very seriously. And one of my concerns is the risks of the Lewes City budget and how many of our revenue streams are potentially affected by many other things outside of city control. So for example, the parking meter revenues that we receive are dependent on weather. Weather will affect the receipts for rentals. We've got a myriad of line items within our budget that are not as stable as other communities like, say, Dover. So my concern is also that the city has a need, which is not imminent, but it is certainly known that as a result of our growth, that the maintenance footprint of buildings and land, as well as the city council building and the BPW building are becoming too small for the services being offered to the city. And that's a need. It's a known need. But there isn't land within the city to move the maintenance facilities within the city. So down the road, there may be an opportunity for us to acquire land where those facilities could be housed. But if we take on debt this time for a project such as this, it may hamper our ability to take on additional debt to acquire the land needed for those facilities. So those are my concerns. It's mostly driven by the financials of the city of Lewes.
Chloe, bring it to a vote. Do you want any further comment? Okay. I will call it to a vote, then I will make my comments after. I just think because I could potentially be the tiebreaker, I'd rather wait until we're at the end of the vote, and then I'll let you know where I stand. So we have a motion and a second on to deny the option to purchase 203 Savannah Road. Let's call it to a vote. Candace?
Aye.
I mean, this is on yes to the no, basically. So that's an
That's correct.
affirmative to
That's
deny
yes.
the vote.
That's
Okay,
correct. Yes to the no.
okay. Carolyn?
I just did.
Yes.
I just didn't.
Tim?
Aye. I vote no.
Khalil?
I vote no.
No. I will also vote yes. And I also want to thank Mr. Quill and Mr. Johnson for this opportunity. I think the comment was made the other day about thinking outside the box. And my regret is that we as a city didn't look at these and other opportunities sooner. So that one of the things that was touched on here was having a policy, having a war chest, having a metric system that we can use to evaluate these opportunities as they come to us. And I understand that sometimes you don't have the luxury, and sometimes you have to act. So in this case, as Candace sort of touched on, the city has a myriad number of needs right now, and we have to address those. So while we do have the desire as a city to potentially increase open space or undeveloped space, unfortunately, I don't think in the situation we're in right now that the use is met sort of the investment, and I'm sorry about that. So I think we have that at 4-1 to deny. And again, I'd like to thank Rick and Joe. Yeah, Rick, I do. Yeah, please do. You've earned it.
407 East Market Street. So Abraham Lincoln in his Gettysburg Address stated, "A government of the people, by the people, for the people." The public hearing was last week. Some people came up to me and said about 75 to 80% of the people were for it. And the ones who weren't for it were just skeptical of some of the things you brought up. The public comments that were put out, there were 22 from my estimation that Janelle got or this town got. 17 were for, 5 were against. That's 77%. You know, the beach side of town for many, many, many years, and was touched in the subject and in some of the letters. We're talking about not being on equal footing per se with the historic part of town. A couple of years ago, I asked for a budget. I asked for the budget, what was spent on the city part of town, historic part of town or whatever, and the beach. Well, the only answer I got was, here's the budget, whatever, and you have to be a CPA to read it. Needless to say, we all know very little gets spent on the beach side of town. You just had a comment about the West Canal. I can tell you this. I don't think this council, who I am in a great respect to, has listened to the citizens. And maybe you think you know something more than they do. Maybe you think you do. But when 75 or 80% of the people say they think it's a good idea and they put it on the record, it's not a representation that I appreciate. And it will get developed. Count on that.
All right. So next, under section I, we're just going to cover some new business. And I think just wanted to go through some of, because we won't have an opportunity to meet. Maybe we can remind people of these on the 29th workshop. But I just want to remind folks of the happenings of 4th of July. So this year, there will be a reorganization of the children's games on 2nd Street. So I want to thank some local volunteers who have started that process, and Anne Marie is working with those folks. So
And Janet.
those that are here, yeah, Janet Reeves as well. So anyone wanting to participate in that volunteer effort, I'm going to volunteer to come, send an email to Anne Marie, just that you to be willing to help in that effort. And that will be from 9 to 12. So we'll block off 2nd Street and do some old fashioned games there. Okay.
Can I just add one thing to that? Some of the games that we've done in the past, we won't be able to do for a variety of reasons. Either we can't, getting the equipment. In some cases, we're not doing any of the food related games for.
Okay.
There was concern about the potential of getting sick. But we
Understood.
will have the egg toss. Just don't eat the egg.
Okay.
Did we skip the lease extension?
No, that's next.
You probably have the old sheet.
You don't,
I have that.
it should be the,
No.
Okay.
it's because
I'm just going along the
it got
city
removed.
or the site.
And then it got put back.
Okay. And then following the 2nd Street game, so that's 9 to 12, there's a boat parade, which originally I think was supposed to start at 1:30. I have 2.
the lineup is at 1:30.
Okay.
And then they make their way down to the judging station at about 2.
Okay.
Okay,
And then there will be an awarding of prizes at the Overfalls at 3:30.
right.
The other Lewes tradition, 4th of July, is a doodah parade. And that is, I think people are queuing up, I think at 4, but that follows along 5 o'clock at Kings Highway down Savannah. So it also covers 2nd Street Market and 3rd Street, and that'll go, well, they put it on military time here for me. That 7, is it go to 7:30, 5:30 to 7? That can't be.
No. That's more about the traffic.
Okay.
Those are the logistics from the
Yeah.
chief.
Okay. Yeah.
It starts at
So
5, right?
It
Okay.
starts at 5. So lineup it starts again at about 4.
Okay.
The-
And by the way, the boat parade is sponsored by the Lewes and Rehoboth Rotary Club and the Lightship Overfalls Foundation. And I believe the doodah was started by the Shockley family. Is that safe to say?
Shockley and Hayden family.
Okay,
Yep.
so that's, again, something that's organic here in Lewes. Okay. And then so that once the doodah parade's over, there will be fireworks. Now, I'll remind everyone that the fireworks here are actually a private venture. And so that's all done by an organization called Go Forth. So not getting any money from the city, the chamber, or the state, or anybody, including you, Matt Meyer welcome to hear, see Matt Meyer from Newcastle County Administrator here. Appreciate you stopping in. But no, this is all privately funded, and you can go to their site. It is, I'm just gonna screw it up here. Okay, here we go. www.goforthlewis.org. Okay, so that will give you, they have a very detailed in terms of different viewpoints, maybe when you want to arrive places, when to expect the bridges to close, and things like that. And you can also donate there. So they're still taking funding, but and again, this will all be on the Gazette, I hope, right, Aaron? Are you guys going to cover this? Okay, great. But I just want to just put that out there. No parking the entire day along Savannah and Cape Henlopen Drive roadway shoulders, the entire length of the Cape Henlopen State Park entrance. So no parking Savannah and Cape Henlopen Drive on 4th. Savannah Road will be closed at the drawbridge at 7 p.m. with only local traffic. So you'd have to show your proof of residency there. Freeman Highway is going to be closed at Monroe at 8, open to local only. DRBA and Cape Henlopen State Park campers with proof of residency will be allowed through. And then at 9, all vehicular traffic on Beachside will be frozen until about 10:30 or the conclusion of movement of pedestrians. And when it's safely determined by the operational commander. So just anticipate around 10:30, that's safe to say? Okay. We are, anyone who can walk or bike to the event, obviously, please do that. Patience is key. I think they say they bring around 20,000. So that's, again, patience, and also reiterate, walk and bike if you can. And then the Queen Anne's Pier is going to be the location points. As you go over the canal bridge, you'll see them staged up there. And there'll be first aid stations located at Dairy Queen parking lot and Cedar Avenue near Children's Beach House and by the ferry terminal. So there'll be first aid stations there. Okay. Again, so starting at 9, going all the way till 10:30, there'll be activities in and around Lewes. Is there anything that I may have missed on that, Anne Marie?
I don't think so. I think you got it all.
Okay. And again, thanks to the group organizing and volunteering to do all that's appreciated. And so the last thing before we take public comment is the lease extension for 612 Bay Avenue. And I think we got those pictures. So essentially, the one thing.
They're being put on the screen right now.
Oh,
Okay.
okay, thanks.
There was one thing I noticed on there, though. There was the language on the renewal had some dates, and it looked like.
Yeah.
It looked like it expired before the. Yeah, so on point 1, it said 99 is commencing on the 20th day of 21-22 and terminating May 21-21. Is that?
I don't have that.
These actually had expired about a month ago, and we're treating it as a holdover and going ahead and offering the 99 years, but the 99 years starts from the date that it would have terminated.
Oh.
Okay. That's the only question. They're 99 years, so.
I understand.
Yeah.
Oh, he's.
So add 99. Yeah, that gets you, 2022.
Right, I understand that part.
Oh,
But what
so this
year-
actually
we're
says-
presently in- What year are we presently in, Glenn?
2022.
And this says 21-22.
Yeah, so if you add 99 years to it, that's where you're getting it.
Nah, but
No,
this
that's
says
all I
commencing
have
on the day, the 20th day of May,
Yeah, okay, that's where I was.
21-22.
It's along it's off by 100 years. Right?
Oh, is that all?
So it would terminate on the 19th day of May, 21-21, But,
So they don't have 99 years on
but
it currently.
do you see that, Kayla?
No, they don't, not currently.
So,
Not have, the lease expired last month. So there's a typo.
right,
Yes,
so the
there's-
one, the 21-22 needs to be 2022.
Yes, I will get
So
Megan to
she'll,
fix it. I will
she'll
fix it.
change that before it
Yeah,
gets.
okay, that's
Well,
all.
that's all. he
I
was
just want to
saying.
make sure you
That's
knew where
what
the typo
I was
was.
losing my mind.
That's what he was saying. He was just saying it's 100 years there too
Yeah,
much.
that's right.
Yeah,
Among friends.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can we vote on this with just, with the correction?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, did anyone see anything else to address with this?
Actually, I did. Thank you. This will be very brief. And
No surprise.
I understand that this is lease renewal by right.
Right.
So I understand that completely. But and I have already discussed this with Janelle. And I just want to use this opportunity to bring to the attention of the council as well as to the lessee that there are some encroachments on this property and they will need to be investigated, I think is the correct word to use.
What does that mean, investigated? I thought we've discussed the encroachments ad nauseum. We don't have any right to tell them to move them.
So
As a condition to.
I'm not saying,
As a condition.
I never said this.
Then why are we bringing this up?
Get into the encroachment.
What is the point?
I'm using simply because this is an opportunity for us to express the condition, the facts.
The
of
fact
this.
that there's an encroachment there that's been there probably 40 years. And we're going to keep going down this road on encroachments. I don't understand why we keep talking about this. I mean, we always talk about it always on Lewes Beach, by the way. That's when it always comes up. No one brings this up when we're talking about homes in town here.
Yeah, we did. We brought it up on the corner of, right across from St. Peter's Church, that red house on the corner. We did.
And Market
Yes,
Street
we
and
did.
Third.
I can tell you a couple of places we brought it in.
And what did we do?
Well, that's what I was gonna ask. Does this one have a license that maybe? I mean, can we?
That's what we're gonna look for, is we're gonna look for a license and we're.
Yeah,
also
because we
looking
let
to
it.
See if they're actually building permits for the structures that have. Based on the aerial photographs, some of these items were not there in 2006. So we're looking to see if they have permits. So if there's no issue, then there's no issue. If they need to come in before and ask for a license, then they have that ability. So we're just gonna look and just do our due diligence to make sure there's the proper licensing or permitting for the structures.
I think, Tim, the other one I would point to is we ran into this with the lands of Thomas is where this is similar, like a retaining wall where at the end of the day, I don't think we were able to really do anything with it anyway.
I'm not.
I think
Yeah,
that was the case. I mean,
That shows up on the, on the plat.
It is city property and you can't obtain rights to city property through adverse possession. So it is you as a council's property and you can bring enforcement actions to have it removed. I think the question is,
No, it
should it be in the context of a license that's a by right, licensing agreement where.
I mean, the other thing I'd say about this one, Tim, is that this is sort of, you mentioned Tom, there's some of the initiatives that Tom looked, this to me, maybe the next view, this is sort of looks like almost best practice, like not that one, the trash cans, not so much so, but the one with the berm there. I mean, isn't that kind of what you want, is areas that like a garden? That's gonna.
I did not speak to that. I
That's
did
the
not
encroachment.
raise, if you're talking about the, what shows up as a timber wall on the plat that they provided, it's inside their property. That is not.
So where are you seeing, that's what I guess I'm asking.
It's alongside the New Hampshire Avenue side. And also, I've asked about the
The fence.
fence height.
That's what I'm saying, right here.
Concern that the fence height might be too
No,
tall.
it's the
So we're
next
gonna look
photo, or
into
go to your other
making sure the
photos.
Fence height is in compliance with code.
Correct, that's all. There you go. It's,
Or that there
is
was
that-
a permit issue.
Correct.
Correct.
We're gonna check
And
permits and then we're gonna check height.
and it's,
This is a
Oh.
beach entrance.
Right.
That's not even a road.
The beach
Yeah,
entrance
it's right
is.
there on the plan. It
is-
shows up as New Hampshire Avenue.
That was put up 20 years ago.
No, I mean, really.
Ask them to get a building permit after the fact, and if they're in compliance, then,
So be
you
it.
know, the
Right.
height's fine.
But what if it's not in compliance? Is-
Again, if it's on their property and we've got something without a permit, typically we'd ask them to obtain a permit. And if it's too tall, we'd ask them to make it come into compliance with the height requirement. Or they can go to the Board of Adjustment and ask for a variance. So they've got some options and we'd work with them.
Right.
Well, as long as we stay consistent.
So
with
is
this
it
stuff.
trash enclosure?
That's-
Yeah.
I
So
hear you.
I'm just trying
I hear
to
you.
make sense of
That
what the encroachment
encroaches.
is.
It appears that the trash enclosure encroaches. And then we've got an issue about the fence and the height of the fence.
Okay, I mean, nonetheless, it's a by right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The lease. is-
I'm not disputing that at all. Okay. It's a
Okay.
99-year lease.
So do I have a motion to accept the renewal with the edit to show the correct
Dates.
dates?
Start date.
I'll make a motion to approve
Got a motion? In a second?
with the change.
Second
Motion
with the
second?
change. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, and at this point, as I said in the beginning, and for those online, we'll accept as well, but this is a public comment period, so we don't anticipate that we'll necessarily comment back to you, with the exception of maybe Aaron, depending on what we can say. But for the public, this is an opportunity, something we're going to try, which is to accept public comment on what you've heard tonight, or a future agenda item, again, with the caveat that we're likely to remain silent. And when you come forward, just please identify yourself and your address.
I'm Charlie Atwell. I live at 312 East Savannah. I worked late tonight, so I couldn't be here before now, but I did Zoom most of the meeting. I was disappointed to hear of your decision. Callie, I appreciate your support on that and on Lewes Beach. So as the council member and Rick alluded to, Lewes Beach, and I addressed comments to each of you that I emailed to you, that Lewes Beach for many, many years and continues to take a back seat to what I called in my email, the mainland in the city of Lewes. And it's unfortunate. We don't get the same attention that the city does, although we're probably one of the key assets to the city of Lewes. So I guess when you take a look at your action tonight, what might have, in my point, would have been a study period to look at a policy, to look at what you might have done, rather than you had a public hearing, you digested that, but you didn't really think about what could we do with this. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Karen.
I'm entitled to my opinion.
You are. We
Thank you, thank
very
you.
much studied this.
Then you should share that with your constituents. So
Can I talk? No?
You can.
You would be surprised how much we study this. We study every aspect of this, from every dollar that the city has to the human aspect of that corner and what it meant to that beach. We didn't take this lightly, but by the same token, we have to know what we're doing, recognizing you don't know the needs of the city. We do. We have some serious issues that we're contending with. We also have to figure out the growth of this building that you're in and how we can host the people we have and where we're going to go. So it wasn't taken lightly by any stretch of your imagination, sir. We really studied this. It was not
I
an easy
appreciate your
decision
comments.
to make, honestly.
I do.
Thank you.
However, I do still think that maybe you should invest in
Yeah, I know.
some fly swatters. But maybe there's an opportunity for a collaborative. Yeah, I think the agility of a city and of a body is important too. And I think we did some wonderful things as a community along the canal with the foundation. Maybe this is an opportunity for you all to take the lead, or maybe we do on Lewes Beach need to take the lead to see if there isn't a collaborative opportunity with the city with Rick or the developer, and maybe it's the foundation, maybe it's another 501c3. But to just say, okay, we're not going to do this and let's move on, is probably not a good position for you all to take. And let's see if there's an opportunity for engagement with the city. Wow.
I know, it's usually over my way, so.
I'm starting to get
You
paranoid
keep-
here.
I know.
But so that's my comment. And on this particular piece of action, I would encourage you also to take a look at the opportunities on Lewes Beach. You know, we had some wonderful news in terms of lifeguards and, you know, the things that, you know, I watch the beach raker go by my house all the time. And that's a wonderful opportunity. And it's a wonderful service that we provide to the beachgoers, the tourists, the people who come from across Route 1 or outside of the city limits of Lewes. But there are other things that require our attention on Lewes Beach. There were opportunities that we missed under previous councils to streetscape from the bridge on, to have a observation area for the Savannah. And so the previous bodies got our hopes all up about that stuff. And then we missed it because the city chose not to match those grants.
We
And that's
can't speak
disappointing.
about our previous
I know that.
council, and that's hard,
But
you
my
know?
point though, ma'am, is about Lewes Beach.
Right. Well, see, I don't look at this place as Lewes Beach and this. I look at it as a whole. I know it's very hard for you to understand.
It is,
I've only
because
been here
for the
14 years.
longest time,
but-
we've felt that there hasn't been the same attention to once you get over the canal. I mean, there was a nice sign put up a number of years ago about exploring the other side of the canal, Peninsula Gallery, Pig and Publican. So there are more things to happen over there. Lewes Line is a great opportunity for people to spend time over there.
Absolutely.
I don't want to overstay my welcome. Tim.
Charles,
You're getting
No.
you're the
Thank you.
you're the guinea pig. I appreciate you doing that.
So, yes,
Yeah.
so, but, you know, certainly appreciate what you do. You spend a lot of time doing this. You have, you know, sought elected office, and we do appreciate that. So I don't discount anything that you.
No, I
have
respect your
studied or
opinion, sir.
invest.
Please don't misunderstand. I really do.
I appreciate it. So we will, you know, those members of the association on Lewes Beach, which I am not yet, you know, the
Right.
association, but those residents are more and more galvanized. So you will hear from us. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Charles.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the room? Are there anyone online that's raising their hand? No? Okay. So again, for those who maybe have joined late, this is a new thing, a comment, just a public comment period. So you can write something in as long as it's tasteful. And you can also raise your hand and
Thank you.
yeah. And again, I'll remind as well, Thursday, I'm going to have coffees. We've been doing that, skip this past Thursday, but that's going to be this Thursday, 7:30 at the Net House. And if there's not anyone else calling once, we're calling to Aaron Mushrush. Come on up, Mushrush. So Aaron's representing us from the Cape Gazette. Any other press members that you want to come up after? Okay, you're good. We got what you need. Okay.
Lots of copy.
And if you need here, Matt Myers here. I'm sure he's happy to chat you up as well. All right.
Aaron Mushrush with the Cape Gazette. Thank you very much. I do like this initiative as well. My first question, I have a couple of questions.
No comment.
My first question has to do with the ARPA funding, and I was able to follow it. Thank you for the breakdown there, Mary Williams. I was right there with you in terms of getting a little bit lost.
Yeah, you're Phillies fan, though. You know what that's like.
Exactly. You got to follow the numbers. In terms of the timeline, that was kind of my concern as well. Is the fire department and Milford Housing, would there be any kind of competition in terms of getting the funding? In terms of, okay, we have our plans ready, we're ready to build by the deadline, or would they be held to their own timelines individually?
So I think, one, the remainder of the funds will have to be competitive because, again, scarce resource, you have to make sure you're funding the best projects, and that will be for this body to determine. But, again, we're very aware of the timeliness of it. So we need to make sure that whatever we fund is able to spend the money in the allotted amount of time, or else that the funding would have to be reallocated again by mayor and council.
And my follow-up on that, to speak to that funding, in particular with Milford Housing, would that money have to be deposited into whichever bank the loan applicant is applying for, that's buying the unit? Is that the
So-
definition of that money being spent?
So we'll have to work out the logistics of how that is done with the Milford Housing Development Corporation. It could be that we transfer money to Milford Housing at the time of settlement. We could reimburse them, immediately after settlement, or it could be that we issue a check to the closing attorney for the, to be presented at the settlement table.
Right.
I've seen it done multiple ways. So we'll have to work the logistics out with Milford Housing.
Okay, thank you very much. That was it for the ARPA request. My next question has to do with the Cedar Street flood study. Outside of these proposed berms and the studies that are there, does the city currently have any plans to mitigate flooding on Cedar Ave and the streets that rely on Cedar Avenue, which is an evacuation route? Is there any plans to mitigate that outside of these berms?
I mean, I'd invite Charlie, none that are in front on my desk, at least. Charlie.
So.
No, yeah, my hot desk,
The other.
my virtual desk.
This, just realize that the West Cedar Flood Mitigation Study was a result of a study that was done 7 years ago now, evacuation route and critical infrastructure vulnerability study. And that was the area and continues to be the area that floods on Cedar Avenue. The rest of Cedar Avenue from, say, Michigan Avenue towards Savannah Road doesn't flood nearly as much as that particular area. I mean, when we had really bad storms like Winter Storm Jonas, it was pretty bad even down by Savannah Road. But this was identified as an area that was an evacuation vulnerable area. So that's why we're doing it there. I know the city's put in for a planning grant with regard to stormwater management and the effects of stormwater runoff, not so much surge tidal flooding. And that's for the beach.
Right. And to that point, I think that the challenge that we have, there's flooding, which is the water coming from the canal. And then there's stormwater, which, is water falling from the sky and not having anywhere to go. And then they exacerbate each other when in certain conditions and become almost indistinguishable. So as Charlie said, we have put in for a grant to work with BPW to do a stormwater study to see if there are areas we can do retrofits to get, our good bang for the buck. But that would be a different project. So I think it's going to be a series of different things to address the larger issue, but also recognizing that we're battling nature.
Thank you very much, Charlie.
Thanks,
And,
Charlie.
thank you. That was kind of for Councilman Saliva's comments that he received, kind of wondering what are the other options if people are complaining about this. I just wanted to know what are the available options then. And my final question has to do with the property at 203 East Savannah. Are the timelines that have been drawn out in the real estate purchase agreement, are those rigid? I noticed that there was the June 30th timeline that had been crossed out and the June 27th timeline to accept. Are those timelines rigid?
They were extremely rigid. There was no flexibility, which
At least from our understanding.
right. I mean, it was negotiated. So
Okay, and my follow-up question, it seemed that there was some regret that there wasn't a policy in place for the city to be able to handle such investment. Is there gonna maybe be research done to be able to, for the city to be able to handle investing in
not only property that sits where 203 East Savannah sits, but property that is priced at $2.5 million. Has there been consideration for establishing such a policy that would allow the city to do something like that?
I said, I think we should, and one of the things that we looked at recently, and Councilman Saliba was part of this, was looking at putting a resiliency fund. So whether the city should put together other policies and examine this as a initiative, I'd support it, because like I said, if we had a framework and essentially a scoring system and a way to prioritize, and more importantly, a funding source that we could rely on, I'd be supportive. And as I said, there is regret that we don't have those things yet in place.
Okay, thank you very much for your time, and I really appreciate this portion of the agenda being added.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you. Thank you, Aaron.
You sure? One last, okay. All right then. So we've appreciate everyone who's tuned in tonight. And our next, as I said, we have a full committee schedule this week. And I think our next public meeting though is what, July 11th? Is that right?
Our next regular
Yeah.
council
Council
meeting is
meeting?
July
Okay.
11th.
And we'll have a 29th workshop in between. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we're adjourned.